Hello again, I'm attorney Robert Flessis for Robbins & Lloyd Career Training Institute. This is part 2 of course number 7 that centers on advertising by licensees. And in this video, we're going to cover coming soon signs and advertising terms in a listing contract. Let's get started. Coming soon signs are a listing tool utilized by agents. MLS rules vary on procedure on when you can withhold a listing from MLS and for how long. A listing agent should always make sure that the coming soon tool is fully discussed with your client and covered in your listing agreement. Sometimes agents will use this tool when a seller has repairs that must be done before entering the property on MLS, or this can be used for an estate when the family is cleaning out the property to prepare it for sale. But if you're a member of an MLS, you need to know their rules so you don't violate them and risk being fined. You can't use this tool to benefit your firm by having your firm's exclusive access to the property over other MLS members. To accomplish a coming soon tool in the WB1 listing contract, you'd be looking at lines 311 to 313, which is towards the end of the listing agreement right above the signature lines that sets the term of the listing, and lines 18 to 26 that set forth the marketing that'll be employed for a listing. I'm sure that firms have specific addenda for coming soon listings that spell out exactly the purpose and the time frame which comport with your local MLS provider. The bottom line is that you need to explain this sales tactic to your client, make sure that they understand, and obtain their approval by the seller executing the listing agreement. Now let's take a more in-depth look at the WB1 residential listing contract when it comes to advertising. As I pointed out a moment ago, the term of the listing contract is found at lines 311 through 313. You have the starting and ending date of the contract. What the term legally does is to grant you the authority during the indicated dates to market the property. You're given the right to market the property according to the methods that are to be employed at lines 18 through 26. Cooperation and access to the property at lines 151 to 158, the seller's cooperation with marketing efforts at line 246 to 252, open house and showing responsibilities at line 253 to 262, and any additional provisions that could include advertising and marketing at lines 303 to 308. Tied together, all of these provisions affect your ability to market the property to find a buyer. The National Association of Realtors has ethical rules when it comes to advertising and case studies that you can find online. Now, one of the infractions was when a buyer drove past a home for sale and noticed a sign that read "for sale" and then had a specific phone number to call. The prospective buyer thought that the home was being sold by owner. But when the buyer called that phone number, he found out that the home was listed by a realtor, but the listing agent said he allowed another realtor to post this sign on the property. Now, was that a violation of the rules? Yes, it was, because the sign that was posted on the premises was determined to be advertising and in violation of the ethics code. Both realtors violated the code. There are also violations for exaggerating when you're advertising a listing. The NAR cited a case on a realtor's website that described a listing as a home on 5 acres that's about 20 miles from the city. The description stated the features of the home and the landscaping and basically made it sound like a beautiful home on a lavish acreage. When a prospective buyer drove to the property, she found that the distance was not 20 but 36 miles from the city. The home was kind of beat up and wasn't anywhere close to the description on the realtor's website. So this prospective buyer, of course, filed a complaint. The realtor responded that the price was way below the market price, and it was a good buy, and that to entice prospective buyers, this realtor thought it was a good idea to puff, along with other puffing claims. The hearing panel determined that this realtor employed gross exaggerations in advertising and found the realtor in violation of Article 12. Well, another case involving misrepresentation regarded a realtor who was selling furnished apartments in a complex, stating that the apartments contained modern updates, new appliances, and an excellent earnings record. So, of course, a buyer scheduled an appointment to view the 3 such properties that were available. The buyer wrote an offer and delivered earnest money. When he inspected the property a few days later, he learned that the 3 apartments shown to him were the only ones in the complex that were updated, and that the other 9 were in rough shape. He reviewed the earnings record and found that there was a high vacancy rate and a loss of earnings over the course of 10 years. The buyer, of course, filed a complaint. And in response, the realtor said that although the building was only 10 years old, the fact that 3 of the 10 units were updated and the fact that only 2 of the 10 operating years experienced a loss, meaning that the return was excellent. Though the hearing panel found that the realtor exaggerated in advertising and it was in violation of Article 12 of the Code of Ethics. In the next case study, a buyer agent complained that the listing agent placed a sold sign on the property when in fact it wasn't sold. In response, the listing agent said that there was an accepted offer, but subsequently that buyer's employer transferred that buyer to another state and the buyer would not be in a position to purchase the property any longer. The buyer was let out of the contract and the property was actively marketed, but the sold sign remained on the property. The listing agent responded that the house was sold, but the deal fell through. The problem here was that a sold sign should not have been posted when the offer was accepted. A sold sign can only be placed on the property when the property sale actually closes. The fact that the sold sign was placed on the property and remained there was a violation of what? Article 12. The sold sign did not provide a true picture of the status of the listing. Another case study involves a broker who was also in the business of property management and home construction. He advertised that if you work with him, you can buy direct and save. Well, another realtor complained, stating that this realtor was trying to take unfair advantage of other realtors, and he filed a complaint. The hearing panel found that the fact that the listing agent made the claim to buy direct and save in his advertising, it was designed to convince prospective buyers that they would save money with him rather than going through another agent. That claim proved to be false because the price he gave to his prospective buyers was identical to the price quoted to others, and there would be, in fact, no savings. This agent was also found to be in violation of Article 12. How about offering a free market analysis with no obligation? This offer was made by a realtor. When a prospective seller invited this realtor to his home to obtain a free market analysis, the realtor told the seller that he would provide the market analysis, but he expected the seller to list with him. The firm even said that they provided the market analysis, which was a valuable free service, but the firm believed that this seller owed them the listing of their property. The realtor responded to the hearing panel that even though they stated there was no obligation and he didn't accept any fee for the market analysis, that was a violation. The hearing panel noted that the offer of a free market analysis with no obligation was not a true picture of the offer. The seller didn't have a true and clear understanding of the offer. Therefore, the realtor was in violation of Article 12 for pressuring the seller to list, even though they said there was no obligation to list. Here's a case study where an agent placed his own investment property on the market by owner. He didn't disclose that he was in fact a real estate agent to the buyer. The buyer inspected the property and submitted an offer. After closing on the transaction, the buyer filed a complaint stating that he was put at an unfair advantage because if he had known that the seller was a licensed real estate agent, he probably would not have purchased the property or would have had an appraisal performed. The hearing panel learned that the agent didn't list the property with his firm and there was not agency relationship to be disclosed. He said that there was no need to disclose his status as a real estate agent because he was well known in the community as an agent. The hearing panel did not find his argument to be satisfactory. Article 12 does require the disclosure of an agent's status as a licensee, even when a licensee is selling their own property. The agent was obligated to disclose his status as a licensee in his advertising because that status did affect the buyer's negotiation of the property and affected the buyer's decision making. Here's another case regarding unethical advertising. A realtor placed an ad on his website promoting a guaranteed return for 10 investors for a sure thing. He also stated that he personally guaranteed the investment return to the first investors who responded to his ad. Well, guess what? A complaint was filed, and the hearing panel asked the realtor to show that he escrowed the proposed funds to satisfy his claim to the guarantee. He couldn't make that proof and told the panel that he advised the buyers that inquired that the deal was no longer available and he would note their names for future investment opportunities. Well, the hearing panel concluded that this realtor didn't provide a true picture when he made the offer on his website and was in violation of Article 12. Well, that's all, folks, for part 2 of Course 7. I'll see you in the next video.